in a previous video, I had covered the four clouds that cover the soul. And it's these clouds, or these four roots, which cause us to feel pain and suffering in our life, and as well keep the soul weak and ignorant and full of illusion. And of course, as a spiritual person, as a truth seeker, we're trying to go beyond those effects of those four roots. And to recap, those four roots are anger, ego, greed, and deceitfulness. So we have these four roots, and of course they branch out and they affect us in different ways. So for example, you have the core root of anger, but it may show itself through frustration, impatience, stress, and just general negativity, or even hate if the anger is that strong inside of you. So you can see these branches and effects in your life. Whereas as part of the spiritual path, now we're going to try and come down from the branches into the root, into the trunk. And of course, anger, ego, greed, and deceitfulness are the trunks we need to start working on. And so today, I'm going to share with you 4 higher principles for soul awakening. This way, once you start to incorporate these techniques in your life and these principles to live by, you're going to start really working on those roots. And of course, I'll show you very easy ways you can apply these principles to your life, but then essentially show you how, by just applying it in your life and doing these things, it's going to start working itself into working onto the depth and the core that cover the soul. So you're on a ride, this awesome journey, and so I trust and know you're going to implement these higher principles of living so that you can change your life. And I know there's the challenges of, it's life's hard, and we get angry, we get stressed out, or we're always on our toes because we're always fearful, or maybe we're full of anxiety, or we just don't trust things, or we just don't trust people. And all these things come from those 4 clouds, those 4 roots. But once we start diving in deep and to learning about ourselves and understanding ourselves and really awakening, and once we start to get to experience that reality, that new reality, and start to taste that peace and happiness, and it's just that amazing bliss, so you begin to really feel alive and you begin to know yourself. And that's what this whole course is about. And there's the misconception of, for example, we start with meditation and yoga first. I mean, you look around, there's a lot of yoga studios popping up, everybody's teaching yoga and meditation and all these things, and these are great things. But we also have to remember, if you refer to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, meditation and yoga come later on. We have to look at the first step first, which are called the niyama and yama. And these are pretty much like the restraints and the things we need to do to start our spiritual path. But as a society, we've jumped, it's tendency. We want to go to the advanced stuff because we really, really are excited and passionate to achieve happiness or enlightenment. So we jump to, the several steps, like maybe 4th, 6th, and 7th of meditation and breathing exercises and yoga, but we forget the first step. Because even though we practice, yoga and meditation, it doesn't necessarily mean we'll arrive at enlightenment or self-realization or total liberation. Because question 1 I'll ask you is, are you vegetarian? And yes, vegetarianism, to be vegetarian, is a requirement to achieve total liberation. It's just one of the requirements. You can't be enlightened if you're eating meat or drinking alcohol or any of those things and harming your body. And that's what I'm going to cover shortly in the higher principles of awakening. So just to show you, meditation and yoga are not the only things you need to do in order to reach the highest levels of consciousness or attain enlightenment or self-actualization or self-realization or total self-knowing. There's so many things. But hey, you're here, and you're going to get, as part of this whole training series, the beginning steps for your path, the important elements. I'm covering all this stuff I've learned and realized by learning directly from Acharya Shree, Yogeesh, who's an enlightened master. So I'm sharing with you everything I know that I wish I knew when I first started 10 years ago. So I'm trying to shed off so many years off of your learning curve so that you can realize yourself sooner and become awakened and alive and so on. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take you to the drawing board so that we can jump right in and cover the higher principles for soul awakening. The soul wants to be free, free from pain, suffering, karma, illusion, and ignorance. It wants to be free. It feels as if it's a bird trapped in a cage, and so it's just fighting to get out. It wants to awaken. It wants to be free. It wants to fly because it's its nature to be completely expanded and completely liberated. That is your nature. And so when it's trapped under these four kind of just dirtiness of anger, ego, greed, and deceitfulness, it's really sad. It's not happy at all. So what we're trying to do as a beginner on the spiritual path is begin to work on ourselves and work on the soul and all these things that are affecting our present situation. And you'll notice once we start transforming and changing certain aspects, it will start to create peace in your life. You'll be more happy, stress-free, and even healthier too. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the higher principles for awakening. And these are principles we need to live by each and every day, in each and every single moment. So the first principle is nonviolence. If you turn to one of the past enlightened masters of India, his name was Tirth Mahavir, his whole message was about nonviolence. And at that time, people were, sacrificing animals and just being angry and just being very violent, doing a lot of killing and so on. So his whole idea and his whole approach and teaching was to awaken that society by spreading the message of nonviolence. And nonviolence, of course, is transforming violence. And a cloud that we can refer to, a form of violence, are really all of the clouds, but let's say we can see anger, ego, greed, and deceitfulness. These are all forms of violence. Today we just think violence is okay, don't kill a person. But we have to start going deeper, because the whole path is about going deeper, going to the depth of the ocean, to see the truth, to see the reality. So as part of nonviolence, we want to not hurt or harm or kill any single living being. Why? Because every living being has a soul, and we don't want to cause any pain to that soul. There's enough pain already. Why do we want to add on to others, right? And so it can come in the form of our speech or our thoughts or actions. So for example, the bugs, there's bugs in our house, and it's sometimes habit for most people to just smack it and kill it and that's it. Or it might be a habit to say bad words and then that's it, and it hurts people. Or in other ways, we might think revengeful thoughts because somebody hurt us and now we are trying to kill them with our mind. I mean, there's so much hidden violence inside of ourselves, and it's really showing itself through like anger and ego. But the whole idea of being spiritual and being nonviolent is to transform these things. So we work on our violence, our inner violence. I mean, look at the thoughts, how we think about ourselves. That's negative. That's violence to ourselves. Or the negative things we think about others by judging others or criticizing others. That's violence too. It's not all about just punching something or shooting somebody or that kind of physical violence. There's mental violence, emotional violence, and we need to transform ourselves from that. And it really starts by identifying what we need to work on. So first thing, look at our diet. I mean, if you think about it, all these cows, let's say, if you eat beef, all these cows are in constant fear, and then they go to the slaughterhouse. You can watch these on like PETA.com or PETA.org, PETA. It's a group that fights for animal rights. And I mean, you can watch these videos and they're horrendous. I mean, they put cows, you see the cows lined up, and then you see the people just kill the cow. And then what happens? We eat the cow. And if you think about it, look at how much adrenaline and anger and fear is generated in this cow's feelings at the moment of its death. And you know that we sometimes experience something that we get a rush of adrenaline or just some crazy energy going on, and then sometimes our body feels tired the next day because of so much adrenaline. Well, the same thing for a cow. And if you, like, can you imagine when you eat that piece of meat that has all that high adrenaline? I mean, that's already going into your system, and that, of course, causes disease. It causes, you know, anger and fear and stress. All that comes from eating meat. Can you believe that? But that's secondary to the fact that you're taking an animal's life away. All souls are equal. You know, some souls are in animal form, some souls are in human form, some souls come in the form of fruits and vegetables and bugs. But every soul has a right to life, and that's what we need to recognize when we're starting this spiritual path. And in order to practice nonviolence, we need to see all as souls on their spiritual journey, and we have to respect it. And we don't want to harm them, hurt them, or kill them. And it comes in the forms, again, like I said, in speech, action, and thought. So in order to be 100% nonviolent, one, you have to be vegetarian. And I know that's a very big request of you, especially in this, like, within just a few minutes, I'm already asking you to change your life by becoming vegetarian. But what I am going to ask of you is, if you're really dedicated into knowing truth and into awakening your soul and becoming happy and becoming truly free, look at your diet first and slowly cut out the heavier meats. Maybe cut out beef at first, you know, and then eventually after a couple months, then go to eating less chicken, eliminate that, and then, you know, go lower, eliminate fish, and then go even lower, eliminate eggs. But the whole point is it can be a process. I'm not asking you to be a vegetarian overnight because I know it can be hard. But we have to always remember why. Remember, I was telling you about the why in another video. We need to know why we're fighting. We need to know why we want to be spiritual. And that comes from, and this helps when you're, let's say, becoming vegetarian. The why. Because you want to be nonviolent. You don't want to cause any harm to animals, or you don't want to kill them or take their life or support this industry. You have to know the why. And it's the why that's going to carry you through all the challenges in anything. So for example, you know, as soon as you become vegetarian, people are going to criticize, like, why are you becoming vegetarian? Why are you being different? Why are you changing? And then you just think and connect back to your why. Why? Because you want to be spiritual. Why? Because you respect life. And why? Because you just want to awaken your soul and you don't want to hurt anybody or anything or any animal in the process. That's why. So the how. To transform violence into nonviolence is watching your action, speech, and thoughts. And I'm going to dive deeper into nonviolence in another video, especially how vegetarianism relates to it, and also, you know, share with you the benefits of being vegetarian. But like I said before, in the Patanjali Sutras, you know, people are jumping to meditation and yoga, and they wonder why they're not moving forward. Well, you have to come back to the first step. Are they being nonviolent? Are they being vegetarian? So it's just something to think about. You know, watch this video a couple of times, or watch, you know, the PETA videos and see what industry we're supporting by eating flesh and meat and all those things, and all the trauma they go through. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it gets worse, but we'll save that for another time. So a second principle to live by in order to awaken the soul is practicing non-attachment. I remember mentioning in that other video that, you know, there's the 4 clouds: anger, ego, greed, and deceitfulness, and it covers the sun, your soul. And what makes that stick is really attachment. The glue of all those 4 roots is attachment. And so in order to release our soul from bondage, the grip of karma, illusion, pain, and suffering, we need to learn to practice non-attachment. And let's see, I'm going to write anger here. Ego, greed, deceitfulness. We have to practice non-attachment, and it hits on all the levels, because if you can practice non-attachment, all these 4 clouds cannot touch your soul. And it's the attachment, it's that glue that causes us all that pain and suffering. And we can practice this by being non-attached in our thoughts, and let's see. I mean, how many times are we attached to things we gain, or people, or in general? It'll be covered in the next one, but our possessions. We're so attached to the things we have, our identity, and our body, the way we look like. I mean, some people are attached to the pain they have, and they subtly enjoy depression because they don't want to change their life. Attachment just causes, it's that glue, it's that resistance, it's that what keeps us stuck in a box. And in order to release ourselves from that attachment, we need to start changing and practice non-attachment. And really attachment in the sense of, don't be mentally attached. And I'm going to cover it, actually I could just go ahead and move forward. In non-possession is another higher principle to live by. So for example, you know, you might have a family, but in order to be 100% spiritual and to liberate your soul, you have to learn to be non-attached to your family members and not possess your family members. You have to remember, everybody and everything is temporary. We're going to lose this body and move to another body to continue our journey on this path. So we need to learn to not be in control of everything and not be attached. And it's okay, let's say for example, let's say you're a wealthy person and you have a certain lifestyle. It's okay to have things, you know, but are you so attached that if it goes away, you're just going to die and have a heart attack? I mean, I know some people, for my dad, for example, he used to be in the antique business as a collector, and you know, I would always think like, you know, he is so attached to his antiques, and these are just vases, glass, and collectibles, and I would think like, man, I mean, if this whole garage of antiques gets destroyed, my dad's going to have a heart attack, because he is so attached to his things. It's okay to have them, but it's not okay to have that mental attachment. So once that mental attachment's there, your soul cannot be 100% free. Remember, this whole thing about spirituality is about self-improvement, self-knowing, and self-knowing towards enlightenment. Enlightenment is total liberation. Total liberation, not just an ounce of liberation, total liberation. So if that mental attachment's there, that is not going to happen. But we can start slowly working on it by just reminding ourselves like, hey, those people, those things don't belong to me, but I still love them, but I still understand them, I still care for them. Because it's really in true oneness, when there's no attachment, do you get to really truly love unconditionally. Isn't it amazing? Like, we think we love people, but technically, love is showing itself as really deep down as attachment. So our love, what we see now, is just attachment. But as we start to dissolve that attachment, and we start to release that control, that possessiveness, then we get to see the light, and then we get to see, wow, we are all love. We are all the source of love. We are all connected No one's different. Everybody is just one. There's no separation. It's not that I'm not going to love that daughter because that's not my daughter, that's somebody else's daughter. See, that's stuck into the mental view of separation. But in reality, when we're in truth and in our true spiritual self and knowing, we see our oneness with all. There's no separation. It's just one big giant light, one big giant ocean. It's totally amazing. But it's these things like violence and attachment and possession that separate us and cause those clouds to stay at our soul. And of course, in return, we're kind of blinded by it. So non-possession is another higher principle for awakening, so that we're not, like I said before, we're not attached to our things, and we don't try to possess people and say, oh, that person's only mine. And it comes from if you're married, it's normal. I mean, you're supposed to be committed to each other. You've made that promise, you made that vow, keep it. I do not support cheating at all. But possession comes from the control of trying to control the other person and all the aspects of their life. But you have to also think, you're trying to control this one person or your whole family, but you're out of control yourself. So how's that going to even work? So forget about trying to change other people or trying to control other people. Try and change and control and work on and improve yourself. So non-possession really affects all the other clouds too. Anger, ego, greed, and deceitfulness. I mean, it's all connected. If you improve your anger and you eliminate your anger 100%, all the other four will automatically disappear. They are so interconnected. But these higher principles are just different ways to start breaking down these roots and start breaking down these clouds so that your soul can truly shine. Another higher principle is truthfulness. It's and that's related to the cloud of deceitfulness and all the other ones, really, because you have to live by truth. You have to speak the truth. You have to think in truth, and it's not cool to talk about people behind their back. It's really weak, actually, and gossiping and stabbing people in their back and just outright lying or stealing. If you're trying to improve yourself and you're trying to live in total truth of yourself, then being deceitful or lying to other people is not part of the journey. It's not part of who you are. So we need to start working on those aspects. And truthfulness, this also comes thought, action, speech. And really, same thing, possession. Don't try to control people in your thoughts, action, or speech. And the greatest way to collect karma are through these three things: thoughts, action, speech. Thoughts, action, speech. And these are the avenues of how we collect more clouds and more clouds and more clouds that cover the soul. But it's also the same avenue when you reverse it in order to improve the soul, in order to improve your violence to non-violence, improve your attachment to non-attachment, improve your possession into non-possession, and deceitfulness into truthfulness. It's all reversed, but you have to start training yourself, and you have to start building those positive patterns and positive habits to start becoming aware of these aspects in your life. Like for some people, they don't even know what they're saying. They don't even know what they're thinking. They don't even know what they're doing because they're just so out of it. They're so out of the moment. And they're so not in present moment. And of course, like I've said before, if you're not in the present moment where soul is, you're off in la la land, you're off in ego, you're off in a completely different identity, far away from your true self. But when you're in your true self, when you're in your soul, you're automatically living in non-violence, non-attachment, and so on. You're living by these higher principles by just connecting to your soul. it's like it becomes even effortless because you're so in the moment, you're so in peace, you're so in happiness, you're so in positive being, positive state, highest state even, then all those negative things won't happen. And that's the idea and really what meditation is about. Meditation itself is not a practice. Meditation is just being in the state of your soul. And in that case, your whole body and your whole mind is in complete and total relaxation. And when you're in that, you're immersed in the soul. And when you're immersed in the soul, you're not thinking, you're not speaking, you're not in any action, you're just in your total self. And when you're in that space, in that moment, you're not collecting karma, but you're actually beginning to dissolve your karma without even trying. Because once you start trying too hard, you start collecting, you start getting tension, and tension causes anger and all that stuff, all those roots. It becomes a huge cycle. So the whole idea is, and the whole point is to be in your true self, to be in your true soul, to be in your nature each and every moment. Because when you're in yourself, you're not collecting anything bad, you're actually collecting, or you're actually dissolving both good and bad karma. And the soul doesn't want either of them, good karma or bad karma. Soul just wants itself. Soul has everything in itself. It has the infinite knowing, infinite power. It just wants to be itself. It's crying. It's crying to be free. It's crying to be out of that cage. So that's why we need to be in our true self. And in order to start doing these things, I mean, like, for example, I just asked you to be vegetarian. Just take baby steps. That's how you become successful on this spiritual path. Take baby steps. Don't take huge leaps. Because if you take huge leaps, there's a higher percentage you're going to fall down and then give up. But rather, if you start taking baby steps and you're patient with yourself, then you're going to arrive. Then your body gets used to it. Then your mind gets used to it. And then all your senses begin to cooperate with your soul. And when your senses cooperate with the soul, you're in true soul in each and every moment. You are who you're supposed to be. You are in a total moment of complete awakening. And that's amazing. So for this month's homework, what I'm going to ask you to do is go through these 4 higher principles for awakening. So go ahead and grab a piece of paper and a pen and go ahead and write down how you can be non-violent, how you can be non-attached, how can you practice non-possession, how can you be practicing truthfulness, and list 5 ways you can start to improve these aspects of your life, and you'll see the difference once you start to do. Now the whole thing is that all these things can just remain as concepts for you. These things can just be as, just thoughts, happy thoughts. Oh, that's a nice way to think about something. But really, you need to start doing, because it's in doing that all the ignorance, all the illusion, all the pain, all the suffering are going to finally be eliminated from your soul, and you can be truly free. So in another video, in the next month, we're going to go ahead and cover what sadhana is and different practices you can do to start really bringing nonviolence in and practicing these higher principles in a concrete way in your life. So for example, you'll learn about breathing and meditation, yoga, fasting, and practicing silence as some of the forms of sadhana that I'll cover. So until next time, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it serves you. If you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the comment section below. And, I really, really enjoyed spending this time with you. I hope you've taken a few notes, actually all these notes, and all I ask is that you learn to implement them. Just not think about it. Implement them, because through implementation, you get to change your life, and then you get to affect and change all the other people's lives. But everything starts with you. So believe in yourself, love yourself, and know yourself, because hope for a better world starts with you.